Automobiles that are intended for mass market consumption are built to a price point, and that comes with certain limitations. The car industry has been around long enough for us to have a pretty good idea of what we can get for our money. But every now and then, there comes a car that redefines our expectations. Case in point, the Chery Tiggo 7 Pro. Starting with the exterior, I think that this is one good-looking automobile, regardless of which angle you look at. And I love how it manages to be striking without desperately trying to do so, because aside from this huge grille, the styling is pretty conservative, and all the lines seem to be in all the right places. And I could go on and on about the way this thing looks, but at the end of the day, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What looks good to me may look fugly to you. So let's talk about the fact that this comes with everything you could possibly want, including these matrix LED headlights with sequential turn indicators. This even has a follow me home function, which illuminates your path as you approach or leave the vehicle in the dark. You also get daytime running lights, heated power folding side mirrors with repeaters, an integrated luggage rack which can carry up to 50 kilograms, 18-inch wheels wrapped in Yokohama tires, these gorgeous LED taillights, and a power-assisted tailgate that can be operated hands-free or via the key fob. Opening this reveals 475 liters of cargo space with the rear seats up and 1,500 liters of space with the rear seats folded. So as you can see, you get a good dose of practicality too. Now before we hop in, I want to point out the fact that you can open and close all the windows via the remote. And that also includes the sunroof. You can even start the car. But if you think all these features is just a gimmick at the price of good quality, think again, because the fit and finish of this thing is top-notch. It doesn't feel like it was put together by a bunch of overworked laborers in a backyard factory. The panel gaps are even and minimal. The paint finish is also pretty good. All moving parts feel solid, and these doors close with a satisfying thud. It's more like closing a fridge as opposed to a cabinet. And I also love how these doors go all the way down. Not only does it give it a clean look, but it'll also help you keep your pants clean when stepping out of the vehicle. But it's also worth noting that this is based on the T1X Comfort chassis, which was built in partnership with Jaguar Land Rover. And let's see what that translates to inside. Similar to the exterior, this cabin triggers a sense of awe when you step in it. Now, as expected, this thing is loaded with tech and features. But before we dive into that, I want to take a moment to point out all the soft touch materials that can be found here. You get a leather padded dashboard, leather seats and door cards with colored stitching and different accents to break the monotony. And they're not only nice to look at, but they also feel good to the touch. When it comes to the ergonomics, everything is laid out nicely and well within reach. And despite all the tech here, operating most of the electronics here isn't rocket science. The audio controls would definitely be more intuitive with the use of knobs as opposed to these buttons which are laid out all in one area. Although it doesn't take too long for muscle memory to kick in, so you can operate it without looking. And I would typically say the same thing about the dual zone automatic climate controls in the absence of physical knobs or buttons. But the fact that there are indents on this touch panel still makes it possible to operate by feel, which is pretty neat. Now you also get an electronic park brake and an electronic gear selector, which isn't only a modern touch, but it also gives you more storage. And while we're on the subject of storage, you also get this strategically placed wireless charge pad, which gives you full view and access to your device while you charge it. Now if that isn't clever design, then I don't know what is. You also get the center armrest, which doubles as a storage bin that even has ventilation so you can keep your drinks cool. Moving on to the infotainment system, you get this massive 10.25-inch touchscreen that has QD Link for Android and Apple CarPlay. But the system's party piece is its 360 camera, which gives you a really clear and crisp view of your surroundings. There are different modes to allow you to view various angles. You can even use it to see if your lights are on or if a door is left open. This also comes with a 7-inch digital instrument cluster that displays multimedia and communication info aside from the usual driver essentials. However, I feel they could have done more with this as far as configurability is concerned. You can adjust the colors, but I wish you could also change the layout because it can get quite overwhelming. And I know this won't be a big deal for a lot of you, but I for one like to have a really good view of my tachometer. And this makes it quite difficult for you to keep an eye on your revs. In fact, in my younger days, I could live without a speedometer as long as the tachometer was working, because that would allow you to exploit the car's potentials. But that really isn't sensible, is it? So moving on to the back, you get more than enough space. There's a good amount of leg and headroom, and the middle child will be pleased to know that there isn't an intrusive center tunnel. Other niceties back there include rear air vents, a charge port, and an armrest with cup holders. But to really seal the deal when it comes to giving you a premium interior, you also get this massive panoramic sunroof. So with the sunshade open and this awesome weather, I think it's time to go for a drive. Under the hood of the Chery Tiggo 7 Pro comes a 1.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that pumps out 145 horsepower and 210 Newton meters of torque. Now, those numbers may not seem astronomical, but trust me, it's more than enough. Now, my biggest apprehension with this is the fact that it comes with a CVT, a continuously variable transmission. And that isn't always the transmission of choice for anyone who likes to drive with a little sense of passion. But the CVT is tuned so nicely that your acceleration is always in sync with the sound of the motor. You don't get that rubber band or droning effect that typically comes with a CVT. Now on paper, they say that this has 9 speeds. And for something with a CVT, all that basically means is that you have 9 simulated gears. So I'm going to pop it into manual mode and see what that feels like. Okay, so it still feels like a CVT. It doesn't feel like a conventional transmission, but that's fine because it does a really good job in putting the power down. And the best part about all that is you get pretty decent pulling power without sacrificing fuel efficiency, because this thing can still do 7 to 12 kilometers per liter between hellish and bearable city traffic. And then when you take this out on the highway, you can get as much as 16 kilometers per liter, which really isn't bad. When it comes to ride quality and overall comfort, this will not leave you wanting, because you get McPherson struts at the front and a multi-link suspension at the back. So that means you have a fully independent suspension, which keeps the ride extremely compliant. And when you take this thing around the corner, it's not exactly sporty, but the car always remains composed. But what really adds to the comfort is the excellent noise suppression. The cabin does a really good job at isolating you from the noise outside. The brakes are also pretty good. The brake pedal gives you enough feel so you can stop with precision. So you can get this thing to stop when and where you want it to. And the fact that it has 4-wheel disc brakes means even during heavy or sudden braking, you won't lurch forward. The car will not nosedive. So you'll always come across as a really smooth driver. Next, let's move on to what I feel is the most important driving attribute, and that's the steering feel. Now, the steering of this thing is really light, but you can alter that by changing the drive modes. And when you put it into sport mode, it becomes a little bit stiffer. It also becomes stiffer as you get faster. But regardless of what setting you have it on, it always provides a good amount of feedback. You can always tell where the wheels are pointing. And that isn't always the case for vehicles with light steering. Some of them feel so disconnected to a point it feels like you're floating above the ground. But that's not the case with this. Overall, this is a pleasure to drive. Now, it may not be sporty, But for what a crossover is meant to be, this ticks all the boxes. And aside from all the comfort, space, and overall ease of driving, you also get nifty features such as hill descent control, hill launch assist, cruise control, and these ambient lights that go on and off in sync with your music. Now that's not necessary, but still a nice touch. Not to mention this 360 camera that shows you your surroundings each time you make a turn. There just really isn't anything more you could ask for. The Chery Tiggo 7 Pro can be yours for 1,198,000 pesos. And considering everything you get with this, you may think that that's too good to be true. But it doesn't end there, because the folks at Chery know that discerning buyers will always have reliability in mind. So this comes with a 5-year, 150,000 kilometer bumper-to-bumper warranty, a 10-year, 1 million kilometer warranty for the engine, and 3 years of free preventive maintenance and roadside assistance. This really takes getting a bang for your buck to a whole new level. I wouldn't be surprised if this soon becomes a bestseller.